Hey guys, it's AC Trader back again, breaking down another day of trading. So when we first sat down, we were looking at the S&P 500 top gainers chart. Now, S&P 500 has been down. It's kind of on a little rally back up, still down overall for the past couple months or so. Obviously, with the news of the tariffs, holidays, things have kind of been rocky, and whatever else has been happening in the world. So unfortunately, market's kind of been slower, even though this week has been pretty decent for us. We've had some good wins. So I was hoping to have that same optimism when trading. So first thing that we saw popping up was BCTX. Now, BCTX did have a nice big rally quick this morning, and I did not get this first initial pop. Unfortunately, would have loved to take this trade over 650 as it rallied up, but I didn't have my chart marked out yet, and I wanted to make sure that do my due diligence and make sure I mark my stuff out so I know where the stops can potentially be, so I'm not getting myself caught in traps, funny enough. So I missed that trade at 650, not the end of the world. However, when we did hold at the 790 mark and then a reattempt to break over 8 is when I took my first trade of the day. The first trade of the day was great because we got all the way up to about 1144. Didn't stay in all that. I actually got out about 10 because we did have this big topping tail from yesterday. Big topping tail from a couple days back, marking that high resistance point. So I did not stay in to get that full move, unfortunately. Not the end of the world. However, I did take a couple more trades on this stock, and the one I took was as it broke up over 1150, as it was going up into 1250. Now, I did take that trade. I did add in back when it was going up over 12. I got a bad fill of 1215, unfortunately, and as it went up, I should have taken my profit. However, I did not look at the 200 EMA. I completely missed it and didn't even think about it, unfortunately, and it came back down. So I did still get some profit, but I did give some back off the tops. I did end up getting out at about 1180 when that candle closed. Not the end of the world, but a silly mistake where I ended up giving back a good amount of my profit. So looking back at it, it wasn't a bad trade still a very good trade, still green. However, emotions do set in and they do play a role. And that is going to lead us to our next stock, which was ELAB. ELAB. ELAB was a stock that popped and dropped. And if you guys have watched the videos before, this is something that I say, we gotta be careful of these pops and drops, be careful of these pops and drops, be careful of these pops and drops. However, with the emotion of feeling like I missed out on that first trade of it popping up over 650, ELAB, of BTCX, I felt like I was going to miss out on ELAB, so I jumped in as soon as I could. Fortunately, when I saw this stock popping up, it wasn't until this right here, until it started going up over 5. So as it shot over 5, I did not see that it had a resistance at 557. And I should have taken the profit, and I should have been fine with it. However, I wanted to see if it was going to ride that momentum. And at this point, we saw pretty much a lot of the volume on BCTX come off and go right to ELAB. So I was hoping that the increased volume would make these candles go green, but it unfortunately did not. So this trade ended up being a small loser, even though it should have been a green trade. I was getting greedy and unfortunately did not do what I was supposed to do. It's all good. It was a small red trade. It could have been a lot worse if I held on to it, but these are the things that I gotta think of beforehand and not let the emotions get the best of me. I didn't want to spiral, so I kind of took a step back, made sure, okay, took a deep breath, didn't want to keep doing the same thing I was just doing and, mess it up and get right back into a trade that's not going to work. So took a step back and I started looking at AREB. AREB started to make some pops. Nothing too crazy. It was on the backside of the trade because a couple of days ago it did go up to about $20 and it's been going down since. So knew it was on the backside of the trade. However, we were looking at it to see what we can get out of it, and we ended up taking a few trades. Those few trades were up over 429, going up to seeing if we can break over 450. And unfortunately, we broke and then immediately dropped back down. So that was just a small green trade, only like 10 cents. Nothing too crazy, unfortunately. Didn't take any more trades on it. We could have taken, the trade of a break over VWAP here and the break over VWAP here, but MACD was negative here. Yeah, the MACD was positive here. We should have, we could have done that, but at this point in time, we weren't even looking at this stock. We were kind of done with trading at that point in time. So the last stock we ended up trading was actually CEP. CEP is not normally a stock I would trade because of the price of it. It was about $20, a little higher than I normally like to trade, and it definitely did have some big spreads. So it was very tough to find a spot where you can make some money and not get yourself into some trouble. So when we were looking at the CEP, we were just looking at it for a little while. Of course, didn't take any trades. Did see that it was able to break the previous high of 24.27 and slowly grind up. Still, just watching, didn't take any of the trades. Did have this nice curl pattern start to form, and the price skyrocketed. When it skyrocketed, it actually went into a hole. So this hole is kind of when I started getting a little interested, even though it was expensive. Kind of wanted to see what it was going to do. So we did have this nice spike in volume, one, but also in price. We did have a large topping tail. So waited for my clean setup. We did have a doji candle, but as that doji candle broke, as the following candle broke that doji candle's high, is when I took that next trade. We took it from $35 all the way up to about $37, so we did end up having a pretty decent trade there. I did get out, didn't want to stay in on that, and it was only a few shares, it wasn't anything big, but I didn't want to get myself caught, and that was a big thing. So, in the next halt that ended up happening right at that $38 mark, I was, looking to see where it could potentially pull back at. We just did have these big rally up, a lot of volume, with a lot of green, so I was thinking that we could get some selling here, and some selling pressure to bring it back down. So we ended up going almost immediately into another hole down. So at this point, hands were off, looking at other levels that it could potentially come back to and see if there's potential resistance. So what I ended up doing is seeing that this halt and the candle that brought us into that halt had a nice price of $31.50. And we didn't see that $31.50 it touched here and also touched the doji candle that it bounced off on to see if it can hold that level. So potentially had a spot of support or resistance. And as we pulled back and we broke through that line again, coming into 11 o'clock, is when I took my next trade. So as it came back up over that $31.50, I hopped in for $31.50 and got out about $33. So a nice move there, once again, smaller move or smaller share size, but something I would take. Now, like I said, this is not a stock I would normally trade. However, the MACD started going positive here. We did have an increase of volume, and we're breaking that previous line that we were holding as resistance. So with those things, I saw this trade was should be good, and I ended up taking it. After that, I'm gonna be honest, I got way too scared. I was playing with way too much money, and I didn't feel like I was making the correct choice of staying in and trying it again. So at this point, I just sat back and watched, and I absolutely could have taken another trade for sure on it, but with how big the spreads were, it not being a normal stock that I trade, I think I did the right thing stepping back and not getting caught in the emotions that I had earlier in the day of that fear of missing out. That led me into 2 bad trades. So, all in all, a very small green day, not the end of the world, still very good day, and also a learning day as well. You know, we learned that we're not immune to the emotions, even though we've been on this run for a few weeks now of good green trades. It's still gonna happen. These, hard green days or even red days can happen. But if you're following your plan, most likely not. We do have a strategy that does work, and as long as we're following it, we should be fine. We just need to keep our emotions out of it and think logically about what the stocks are telling us. So, I think that's going to be it, guys. Pretty simple review today. Nothing too crazy. But anyway, I need you guys to like and subscribe. That'd be absolutely wonderful. I would really appreciate it. Once again, guys, we'll be back again tomorrow, breaking down another day of trading. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.